Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite duologies ever. This is the Heartless Hunter and Rebel Witch duology. This is the Fairy Loot edition of this book and it is called The Crimson Moth in the UK, so that is why I have a different cover entitled there. And then Rebel Witch is the second book in the series, which comes out on February 18th, but I actually was able to snag a copy early from Barnes & Noble and I have finished reading it, and wow guys, so good. This is going to be one of my favorite duologies ever and I want to give you guys a little bit of a review. So we're going to do a non-spoilery section first and I will let you guys know when we're getting into the spoilers so that you can pause. So in general, this series is about a girl, Rune. She is a witch, and Gideon, who is a witch hunter. And honestly, the best way to describe this series is like cat and mouse vibes. Like they're constantly trying to outsmart each other and like run around each other. And obviously the witch hunter is trying to catch and kill all the witches, and the witch is trying to save them. So essentially Rune, our main character, is undercover as the Crimson Moth. The story is about her trying to rescue witches from being killed and her outsmarting Gideon. This is true enemies to lovers. They genuinely hate each other so much, but this series is also considered YA. Now, I go into that saying very upper level YA. This I do not think should be considered a YA series. There are a lot of dark themes in this book series and the spy scenes are way too in-depth to be considered YA in my personal opinion. So if you were thinking about reading this series, definitely know that there is some spice. It is not closed door even though it is YA. I also did read both these books in a day. So I read this last year when it came out in one single day, one sitting. And then when I found this early, I also read this in a day. So they are quick reads. They're both around 450 pages. The yearning and banter in these books is like next level, powerless, reckless vibes. So if you're looking for a series with that type of banter and tension, you need to pick this up. And it's also finished, so it's only a duology. It's just these two books. I think it was perfect. It didn't drag the series on longer than it needed to go on, but also we did cover everything. You have the door left open in this series where there could maybe be a spin-off of a side character, but it does wrap up Rune and Gideon's story perfectly and it's so good. And without further ado, we are going to get into the Rebel Witch review. So if you have not read the book yet, please pause, come back later. Guys, literally, I was feral for this book. I was really nervous that this was going to start off and they were going to be separated and it was going to suck, but no, it starts off and literally she's engaged to this prince and Gideon is there to assassinate and kill her. And oh my gosh, that whole opening scene where he comes in and finds her and then he's about to kill her, but he doesn't kill her. And then freaking Cressida comes in. Oh my gosh. When Rune had to leave and Cressida had him again, I was so upset. I was freaking out. I am so happy that did not go on longer than it needed to. But let's talk about the curse that she put on Gideon. Awful, literally awful. This is one of those reasons why I'm like, this should not be in a YA book. I feel like it was just too heavy for YA. But wow, guys, making it so that he cannot kiss his one true love or he will feel pain and think of Cressida was evil. That woman was so evil. I'm so happy she's dead. Thank goodness she's dead. They then go to the boat and I was so excited when we got to the boat scenes. I just knew them being locked on a boat for 3 days together, it was going to be a good time, and it definitely did not fail. It was so good. We of course hated when he kissed Abby. I was really not happy about that, but I get why he did it. Also, I will say this is filled with miscommunication trope, but this is probably the only book that I've ever read where the miscommunication trope didn't bother me, because since you are fully in Rune's mind and Gideon's mind the whole entire time, you like see their justification and you see why they're not doing it. And yes, there's like a part of you that's like, oh, just talk to them, like come on. It also makes you understand like where they're coming from and like truly like they hate each other. They're both trying to kill each other throughout both of these books. So it made sense to me why they were so scared to trust each other, especially with all the betrayal that went on in this bad boy. Oh my gosh. When they had that first kiss on the boat and it hurt, oh, that was literally so painful. But then afterwards, when he figured out like what the curse was and they're back on their little island, she's like, you hate kissing me, you can't stand it, and they're like trying to steal the Sybil's child so that they can get her to work with her. He's like, mind if I demonstrate? And then he goes to kiss her and then it's painful. That was literally so painful. Knife to heart. But then afterwards she like gets away and she goes back to like his apartment to like get her stuff so that she can leave, and he's there, and the knife to throat scene, this might be my favorite knife to throat scene that I've ever read in a book in my entire life. And she literally was like, I'm not gonna miss you, and then he says, I can't tell if you're insulting me or flirting with me, and then he goes, tilts her chin to kiss her, and she said she knew what she was about to do, and the worst thing was she wanted him to do it. Rune lifted her knife to his throat and said, don't you dare. I was like, but then of course he pushes in the knife, doesn't care, and kisses her. But then she realizes that they're going to be leaving each other, and he says, I'll give you a 20-minute head start, and that was like their grand goodbye. Oh my gosh, I was so sad. I was literally so upset. And then she goes to try and say like she wishes it would be different, and he's like, don't, just leave, don't talk to me. I was like, my heart! It was just, the yearning. Like you can tell they want each other so badly, but because of their circumstances, it just isn't gonna happen. And then when she gets on the boat to leave and she finds the note that that woman hid from her, oh my gosh, that was the first time I teared up, was when I read the note, and it was like the coin on the necklace. Said, I hope you find the freedom you're looking for. Oh, so good. I was so obsessed. And then when Cressida is torturing her and she breaks the curse on Gideon, oh my gosh, literally so sweet. But she didn't just break the curse. We find out later she also protected him from ever being hurt by Cressida ever again, which is so good. And I loved that. It made the ending great. We of course then have the who did this to you moment when he sees her scars and they're in the waterfall cave area. I was like, yes, classic fantasy book. We're eating this up. We are loving this. Them running on the train together. There seriously wasn't a single part that was boring. I was obsessed with it. Also, her seeing their kids, I was so obsessed. And I think my favorite little scene from the book was when she tells him that she wants to be his wife. Oh, I ate it up, guys. She said, I fantasize about being your wife. I want to be your wife, Gideon. And then he says, and these children you also want, there are children. And he says, Rune, being married to you would be the honor of my life. You're saying you'll have to stay and fight, and if I marry you. And she said, more or less, is that extortion? And he says, I'll happily be extorted by you. Guys, I was literally so giddy. I love it so much. And then before the final battle, when they're like all together and they're all dancing in the room and it's so sweet, and Rune has this internal thought. This is my favorite quote in the whole book. It was just like, oh, world peace, they're all getting along. It was so, so good. And it was when her internal thought, it was a world where enemies could be not just allies, but lovers and friends, and most of all equals. It was a world where no one needed to hide who they really were. And then, of course, we have the crazy, crazy ending of this all where Rune dies. I was weeping. I was weeping and sobbing. I had a feeling that they were going to use Cressida to bring her back, which they, of course, did. But I was sobbing my eyes out. I was like, wow. And Gideon had to kill her, which is crazy because it's like we went through this whole series where he was trying to kill her, and then he finally gets to a point where he's accepted that he's in love and he's not going to kill her, and he still has to do it. He did say he'd kill her, though, and he did. I love that we got a little ending plot twist right at the end just to leave us off with, which is that Seraphine, her like aunt-like figure, was actually Wisdom, one of the like higher beings in the series. I did get chills all over my body because obviously we knew that she was going to, you know, kill Cressida to bring Rune back, but I figured that she was just gonna like corrupt herself and then die. But no, because she's actually like one of the big bad ancient beings, and so she was able to do that and then leave, and it was great. And then in the epilogue, of course, it's like 3 months later and they're all happy, and she says she's kissing her husband, and I was like, they're married. I love it. The one thing that did catch me a little off guard, which makes me think that maybe we could get a spin-off in the same series about Layla, was her chapter. So that last chapter before the epilogue was in Layla's perspective, which it wasn't labeled. In every chapter at the beginning it says Runer Gideon, and this one doesn't have anyone's name, and it says Layla Creed strode through the stone halls. So I'm thinking this could be her way of letting us know that we're gonna get another book with Layla, which would be great because then maybe we could see like Runer Gideon's children one day. But overall, this was a 6-star read for me. This was a 6-star series for me. It is really hard to do a good duology where it's not boring at all and the second book is as good as the first and it just wraps up everything so perfectly. And I think that Kristen Cicerelli did the best job. And this is probably tied with One Dark Window as my favorite duology. And I simply love it so much. So go pick it up. It comes out February 18th if you're seeing this early. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love doing these book reviews and making these videos. If you guys have any books that you want to see me review, anything that you see on my shelf back here, please let me know. Also find my book talk at Haley St. John on TikTok where I post daily. And I will see you guys next week on Sunday.